In this video, we're briefly going to discuss the geologic timescale and go through a few examples of how you can read and interpret a geologic timescale found on page number 8 of your Earth Science reference table. Well, to start, we need to understand that the geologic timescale is basically a timeline of all of Earth's history, and this timescale is organized by significant events in Earth's history, such as large mass extinctions or even the evolution of new species. Here on the right, we have an example of the geologic timescale from page number 8 of the Earth Science reference table. Now, your geologic timescale is broken up into different intervals that can each represent a different length of time. So starting on the left side of the scale, you have something called an eon. Now, an eon takes up the most time in Earth's history, and in this case, we're highlighting two eons. One is called the Precambrian, the other one is called the Phanerozoic eon. Both eons span all of Earth's history, so eons take up the most amount of time. To be more specific, eons are then broken up into eras, and we're going to focus on the first eon, the Phanerozoic. So if we look at this, the Phanerozoic eon is broken up into the Paleozoic era, the Mesozoic era, and the Cenozoic era. And to go even further than that, eras are broken up into different periods. Each of these different intervals represents a different length of time. Again, eons take up the most time in Earth's history, eras will take up the next, and then periods can take up the shortest amount of time because they're one of the smaller units of the geologic timescale. So now we're going to look at a specific column of this chart on page 8 of your reference table, and specifically, we need to first understand how this chart is structured. So first I want you to focus on where it says millions of years ago, and then below that we have all of these numbers. That's showing you how far into the past, and every number is represented in terms of millions of years. So if you see the number at the bottom, which says 542, that's really 542 million years ago. So down at the bottom of the chart, we have our past, just like with our rock layers, oldest on the bottom. Our present, more younger rocks and features are going to be found near the top. Now, I now want to pay attention to this column, which is called Life on Earth. Now, this is really cool because it gives you a lot of information about the different types of life that existed in the past and how each form of life has changed throughout Earth's history. So to start, far into the past, we had our earliest fishes. Remember that life started in the oceans. After the earliest fishes developed, we had Earth's first coral reefs. Then later on, we had the earliest insects start to develop, and even the earliest land plants and animals. Because remember, life started in the oceans. Life didn't start on land until later on. Then eventually, we had the earliest amphibians and plant seeds, and also at this time there was a big mass extinction of marine organisms. So life started in the ocean, and a lot of them have gone extinct early on in Earth's history. Then over time, you had the amphibians became more abundant, and we even had more trees growing on the surface of the Earth, and even the earliest reptiles came onto Earth. Then later on, we had extensive coal-forming forests. Eventually, reptiles became abundant on Earth. Then that led to the dinosaurs as we get closer to the present. And then eventually, after the earliest dinosaurs, we had the development of the earliest mammals. After that, we had earliest birds. Eventually, we had some flowering plants. Earliest grasses developed on Earth. And then very close to the present, we have humans. So this scale shows you how life has changed over time and which forms of life came on Earth first, and then which ones came on Earth later on. I also want to draw attention to this part here. There's two specific parts of the timescale which mark mass extinctions. Remember, mass extinctions when more than 50% of the species on Earth go extinct. And we had a really big mass extinction 251 million years ago that killed off many land and marine organisms. And then more recently, the mass extinction 65.5 million years ago killed off dinosaurs. So now I'm going to show you some example questions on how to use this diagram in your reference table. So the question is, during which time period did the earliest mammals appear on Earth? I want you to note that I highlighted the phrase earliest mammals because that is our key to the question. So I'm going to start by looking at the Life on Earth column and look for the phrase earliest mammals. Once I find that phrase, I'm going to take that and look over to the column that says period because I'm interested in the time period. And you'll see that earliest mammals appeared during the Triassic period. Another example is describe the life on Earth during the Paleogene period. And I highlight the Paleogene period because that's going to be our starting point. So we're interested in life on Earth, but we need to start with period. And specifically, we want the Paleogene period. If we want to know the life on Earth that developed at that time, we look over to the Life on Earth column, and we see that we had earliest grasses, and also many modern groups of mammals. So that's how you would describe the life on Earth during that time. Find the Paleogene period, and look over to the Life on Earth column. We have one last example question for you. How many million years did the Triassic period last? So our first step is to locate the Triassic period. And if you remember, we have numbers on our timescale that represent millions of years. The Triassic period started 251 million years ago and ended 200 million years ago. So to figure out how long that actually took, we gotta do a little bit of some simple subtraction. We take 251 million years ago and 200 million years ago, and we subtract them, and we end up with 51 million years. That's how long this time period lasted during the Triassic.